I shot my first whitetail back in 1979 at the ripe old age of 16. Now, I started out like a lot of hunters, just willing to shoot whatever buck came along, but eventually that wasn't good enough, and I started setting goals for myself. Once I would reach those goals, I would raise the bar and continually raise the bar over the last 40 years, always striving to shoot bigger and bigger bucks. I take the very same approach as a whitetail land manager as I do as a deer hunter. I demand that my habitat and food plots be the very best that they can possibly be. It is for this very reason that my good friend Kevin Boyer and I started Real World Wildlife Products more than a decade ago. For me to be the very best whitetail hunter that I can be, I need for my hunting properties to be the best that they can be. Great habitat produces giant bucks. Without a doubt, Real World Wildlife Products help me reach my hunting goals on the properties that I own and manage. Real World's complete system offers the highest quality food plot seed, bedding cover, and nutritional products, all of which work together to keep deer alive, healthy, and productive. Back in 2004, I was blessed to shoot a giant 20-point buck scoring 214 inches. A short time later, I set a goal to shoot another buck scoring more than 200 inches, but this time I wanted to do it on video. It is a goal that I finally achieved this season after 13 years. The story of the buck I would later name Smokey actually starts back during the 2013 season when a really nice 2-year-old buck with 9 points showed up on my farm. The buck's long tines and wide spread showed a lot of promise, but I had no idea that one day this buck would be the one to help me reach my goal of shooting another 200-inch buck on video. The following season, when Smokey was a 3-year-old, is when I really took notice and started paying a lot of attention to him. His rack had exploded from what it was the year before. In fact, when I started getting his photo on my trail cameras, I didn't even realize it was the same buck for several months. Smokey is literally the biggest wild 3-year-old buck I have ever seen. That year, as I regularly got his photo on my trail cameras and watched him feed in my real-world plots, I wondered just how big he might one day become when fully mature. In 2015, Smokey was 4 years old, and I was hoping he would make another big jump in antler score, but that just didn't happen, although he was still a very impressive buck. That year he did not grow a forked G2 tine on his left side like he had the year before. It would be the last time he didn't have deep forked G2 tines on both sides of his impressive rack. By this time in my hunting career, I was primarily targeting bucks that were at least 6 years old. Smokey was still 2 years away from that mark, but I had another buck to target on another farm several miles away. That buck also had forked G2s, and I ended up killing him the very first time I hunted for him after watching him grow up for 6 summers. He scored 180 inches. It was actually the spring of 2016 when Smokey earned his name. I was working with my good friends Jack and Joe Johnson to burn some native grass on my farm, and the fire actually jumped a fire break and started burning some trees and shrubs that I'd planted years ago. And as we was fighting to put out that fire, I stumbled upon Smokey's shed antlers laying there. In fact, the fire was about to consume him when I seen those antlers and grabbed him away from the flames. And from that point on, he was known as Smokey the Buck. Things got really interesting that fall as Smokey was now 5.5 years old and sporting his best rack yet. Before hunting season opened, I made the decision to pass on any opportunity to shoot Smokey, even though I could not find another buck big enough to target. In all honesty, it really wasn't a difficult decision for me to make. I still had that goal of shooting another 200-inch buck, and with one more good growth spurt, Smokey just might make it. That season, Smokey became the biggest buck I ever let walk, as I passed opportunities to shoot him 5 different times. On one late season hunt, I had Smokey just 20 yards in front of my blind, eating Real World soybeans for nearly 30 minutes. Later that spring, I found both of his sheds and measured them at more than 180 inches. Last summer, I was more excited than ever to get my first trail camera photos of Smokey, and when I saw the first ones, I was ecstatic. Smokey had added G4 tines to both sides of his rack. I knew that those tines alone would add 10 to 12 inches to last year's score. By the time he was done growing, he had also added tine length to almost every other tine, as well as more mass. I knew he would now easily be over 200 inches. I tried my best to get video footage of Smokey and Velvet last summer, and did see him 3 times, but each time was right at dark and after a good video shooting light. I did manage to get some good trail camera videos, however. From the years of experience managing my farm and watching Smokey grow up, I knew exactly where my best chance to kill him would be. I have a small food plot at this location which sits right between a field of Real World's bedding in a bag and a wooded thicket. I knew that Smokey liked to bed in the grass field and hoped that the Real World food plot planted next to it would draw him out for a shot. I decided to plant the plot in Real World's Deadly Dozen. This blend has proven to be very effective at drawing deer during every month of the season. My plan was to shoot him early in the season, but I needed a plot that would draw him in no matter what time of season it was. Deadly Dozen was the perfect choice. I simply set the table for Smokey and waited for hunting season to open. On October 11th, we finally got the northwest wind that I needed to hunt the blind overlooking the food plot. My good friend Kyle Harmon went along to video the hunt, and it really looked like we might pull this off on the first try. Smokey did exit the field of bedding grasses in front of the blind that evening. As he fed in the fire break planted in Real World's clover and chicory blend, all he had to do was come our direction and a shot was likely. It was not to be, however, and we watched helplessly as Smokey went the other direction. It would be 4 more days before the wind would once again allow us to hunt for Smokey. After seeing Smokey on our first hunt, I felt good about our chances, but when it comes to mature bucks, anything can happen. Kyle and I settled into the blind overlooking the Deadly Dozen plot and watched for any deer rising from their beds in the field of bedding grasses just beyond the plot. With the setting sun starting to hit the western horizon, I noticed the tall grasses moving as the deer was making its way toward the plot in front of us. I grabbed my binoculars and could see antler tips confirming that it was a buck. When he stepped from the grass less than 40 yards from us, I instantly recognized Smokey.
Down.
Got him.
He's down.
Unbelievable. Man, I thought it was over for the evening. I thought it was over and I looked up and I seen the prairie grass just moving a little bit. And I focused in on that spot and I could see that giant rack just moving that prairie grass. I told Kyle, here he comes, here comes a buck, you know. I grabbed up my nose and I could see it was him. I'll tell you what, I've waited 13 years. It's 13 years. 13 years ago, I shot a 214-inch buck. And I've been trying to get another 200-incher ever since. And I mean, I've searched, I can't even tell you how much I've searched for a 200-inch buck. First person I'm going to call is my dad. My dad he took me hunting whenever I was a kid. He wasn't even a hunter himself, but because I wanted to go hunting, he always took time off from his job to take me hunting and everything. And I want him to be here whenever we drag this buck out and walk up on him for the first time, so I'm going to call my dad right now.
Yeah, you still down there at the Wiener Roaster?
Yeah.
What time you heading home? Well, I just shot a giant buck. I wanted you to go with me to get him. That's a good sign. Let's go get him.
I seen him, yeah, he's face planted straight into the ground.
Well, on that grass up there, we just made it to it.
Right there.
I find him.
There he is.
One of my favorite things about this hunt was having my dad along when we went to retrieve Smokey. My dad was there for me on my very first buck back in 1979. My dad always took time, vacation time from his job to be there to take me deer hunting.
What do you think about that?
Well, there he is.
There he is. John says, there he is.
And he had not been with me to drag out a buck since that first buck I shot back in 1979. So to have him along there when I drug out Smokey was pretty special. You know, I feel extremely blessed to have been able to watch this buck grow up on my home farm. Started watching him when he was 2.5 years old and grow into a world-class animal. And just cherish the opportunity that God gave me for this to happen. And you know, I'm also really blessed to be a part of Real World Wildlife Products. We're a company founded on Christian values. And I just cherish my customers and business partners that I work with and the opportunity that God's given me to be a part of the hunting industry through this company. You know, but most of all, I'm really blessed for the people that deer hunting has brought into my life. Through deer hunting, I've made all kinds of friends, and it's these people, these relationships with real individuals that I really cherish the most, and it's been just an absolute blessing in my life to experience that.
I am a hunter, I am a land manager, and I am Real World.